Good morning, friends from the media. Welcome to the PC for the CE before the Exco. Because of the epidemic, please observe social distancing measures and wear your mask properly. The CE will say a few words first. Fellow citizens, friends from the media, good morning. I'd like to report to you the latest situation of the epidemic and also details for further relaxation of social distancing measures. First, a brief recap. Since the start of the fifth wave and the start of the year, uh, um, bringing a very dire situation to Hong Kong after 3 months of the serious epidemic announced on the 24th of March, that starting from the 21st of April, we can then gradually relax these social distancing measures in phases in 3 months. We provided a very clear timetable and roadmap for the community on that day. I'm pleased to say that under the staunch support of the central authorities, the hard work of the government, and also the concerted efforts of different sectors of the community, I'm pleased to say that we can um, gradually resume normal life as announced on the 21st of March. The following few things has happened after the Easter holidays on the 19th of April. Schools started face-to-face resumption of classes in phases. So far, all primary schools and international schools have resumed classes. On the 21st of April, we relaxed the social distancing measures in the first phase, and then the DSE started smoothly on the 22nd of April, and the core subjects have completed the examinations. A dozen or so candidates were arranged to take the examination at Penny's Bay. And on the 1st of April, we lifted the flight expansion order for 9 countries so that Hong Kong residents can come back to Hong Kong orderly. And then on the 1st of May, we allowed non-residents to fly to Hong Kong. Of course, during the period, there were the Easter holidays, and we also had the long weekend for the 1st of May. There was increased circulation of people in society. At first, were worried that with resumption of face-to-face classes and also relaxation of measures and the flight suspension, perhaps there may be an increase of confirmed cases as a result of the relaxation. Luckily, these things did not happen, and we see that the epidemic is gradually stabilizing. Now we can see from the following figures every day, the number of positive cases continue to drop. As at yesterday, the 2nd of May, we had less than 300 per day. That was 283. And we've been using the sewage surveillance program for a long time, and the viral load has been dropping. As of yesterday, the 2nd of May, 50% of the sewage samples were negative. That is, in half of the samples, no coronavirus could be found. And as for the positive samples, the viral load was on the low side. And our restriction testing declaration and also compulsory testing notices continued. However, the percentage of positive cases dropped to as low as 0.2%. And the two indicators from Hong Kong, you first, the time places of notice on the 29th and the 30th of April and the 1st of April, the number was 0. And yesterday, it slightly rose to 0.24%, but such kind of fluctuations are normal. Another is real-time effective reproductive rate, and that is the number of persons that can be infected by one person. Myself and experts are very worried that the figure would rise after the Easter holidays. But we've been monitoring the situation for 2 weeks. This RT has still been less than 1. The highest was only 0.6% or 0.6. So whenever it's lower than 1, we are assured. The indicators have assured us that we can continue to march on this road to normal life. So starting from today, the 3rd of May, all secondary schools, KGs, and childcare centers can resume half-day face-to-face classes in an orderly manner. But all students are required to conduct an RAT before going to school every day. Let me give you some statistics for your information. Since the resumption of face-to-face classes for primary schools and international schools in between the 19th of April and the 29th of April, we have 56 schools with positive cases involving 50 students and 17 teaching staff against a population of 300,000 students. Then I think the figures are on the low side and quite reassuring. Now, the third stage of social distancing relaxation will start on the 19th of May. The second stage will start on that day because, as we all know, the social distancing measures operate in 2-week cycles. And the next cycle will start from the 19th of May. After the cycle from the 5th of May to the 18th. Now, these are the following arrangements. We're going to reopen all other scheduled premises under Cap 599F, bars, bathing houses, party rooms, and nightclubs, and Park Mahjong and Tinkau, palace, and also cruises, etc. But of course, there will be some restrictions, including the number of persons allowed per table and also the number of persons allowed in the capacity. Take pubs and bars, example. In the second stage, we'll allow them to operate until 2 a.m., but only 4 persons are allowed per table. And we will further relax the dining hours, already relaxed in the first stage from 10 p.m., and that will be extended to midnight. From 4 persons per table, the number can be increased to 8 per table. The maximum number of persons allowed in a banquet is 20 now, but that can be increased to 120. And the third measure is to enhance the capacity of premises already allowed to operate now. For instance, for cinemas, they're only allowed to be seated up to 50% of their capacity. That will be relaxed to 85%. And by then, eating and drinking will be allowed within a cinema. And then for recreation and sports venues not yet open now, they will be reopened, including swimming pools, beaches, and water sports parks, and also water theme parks. And when doing sports indoors and outdoors, no wearing of masks is required. All these will start in the second stage of relaxation on the 19th of May. Having considered that the epidemic is now stable now and strong aspirations from the community, I further announced that the following 3 things that are in the second stage of relaxation can be advanced for 2 weeks, and they will start to take effect on the 5th of May at 00 hours this Thursday. Now, we will reopen swimming pools, beaches, water sports parks, and also water park. And then when doing sports outdoors, including tennis courts and basketball courts, or for carrying out strenuous exercise outdoors, such as jogging, or when in country parks, no wearing of mask is required. Thirdly, because the Mother's Day is just around the corner, and we will allow 8 persons to be seated per table. So this relaxation will be advanced, and the FHB will issue a press release later today to give full details of what I just announced and measures that will be implemented starting on the 19th of May and also those advanced to the 5th of May. But all these will have to be based on the vaccine pass. So if there is any requirement on the vaccine pass, we will enforce it strictly. We have come to the second stage of vaccine pass. In other words, if you have to enter premises that require a vaccine pass, you have to have received 2 jabs. By the end of this month, you will have to have 3 jabs. Of course, with the relaxation, we will enhance enforcement. During the long weekend, in between the 30th of April and the 1st of May, the departments conducted 4,800 patrols and 180 fixed penalty tickets of 5,000 each were issued, and also 45 prosecutions were taken. I have to appeal and remind operators premises that you must act in accordance with the vaccine pass requirements. Now, the road to normal life will also include the provision of services. The majority of government services have resumed normal. I'd like to comment on HA clinics and also hospital services. Our public hospitals went through a very difficult period earlier on because of the magnitude and impact of the 5th wave, and there were a large amount of patients and elderly patients in particular. With the support of the central authorities, things have improved. Now, about 1,300 COVID patients are still being treated. We have 29 critical cases and 58 serious cases, accounting for about 7% of all the patients being treated. There are 6 patients being treated in ICUs. Because the number of cases has dropped recently, COVID patients that require hospitalization has dropped substantially. On average, we have 75 patients admitted on a daily basis, but 140 patients discharged per day. We have procured sufficient number of oral COVID drugs being used at various venues, and 27,700 patients have been prescribed new oral drugs for COVID-19. And many HA staff were infected with COVID previously, but 98% of the staff members that have been infected have returned to their duties. So the HA has now restored their normal manpower level. And I noticed that HA is gradually resume its general outpatient clinic services, and also other hospital and clinic services suspended because of the epidemic. In view of this, I agree that starting from tomorrow, that is the 4th of May, HA can turn its COVID-19 treatment center AWE to a standby mode. Of course, it will not be demolished, but it will be on a standing mode. And also the supporting medical teams from the mainland can gradually return to the country. The first batch has returned to Guangdong, and with the turning of AWE community treatment facility to a standby mode, they will also return to their homes. I like to express my deep gratitude for their help in looking after our patients. Mainland medical staff came to Hong Kong, and they had enjoyed very good cooperation with our local staff, and I think that has laid a very solid foundation for further cooperation between our medical staff in Hong Kong and the mainland. So this Friday we're going to have celebration and setting off a ceremony for them. Thank you.
We will now take questions. Please raise your hands and please identify your media organization and put your questions with the microphone we provide you with. Because of the time, please limit your questions to 2, and there will be no follow-up questions. The gentleman in the front. Good morning, Chief Executive, Hong Kong 01. 2 questions. Now about your achievements in your term of office. This is your term of office is coming to a close. So in your 5 years tenure, concerning your promises, besides the one that you said you couldn't fulfill for sure, what do you think about your achievement? Now you said the land developments in Hong Kong has been in delay and there have been holdups. So what do you think about your performance? Now about the latest proposal by the chief executive candidates that there should be an advanced allocation of a PRH. So what do you think about it? I'm not going to answer these 2 questions in details. I think we should concentrate on the relaxation of social distancing measures and so on. Of course, there are only 2 months left in my office. Like I said, I would like to summarize my work in my tenure, but today is not the time. And I'm not going to comment on the election manifesto of the chief executive candidate. Thank you. Next question, the gentleman in white.
South China Morning Post. First question relating to the epidemic measures.
Sorry, can you speak up?
Sorry,
You're
it's
quite
Chris.
far away.
Sorry. Is that better now? Can you hear me?
No.
Yeah. No, it's still not.
Because you are wearing masks and you're too far away. Can you slowly and speak up?
Okay. So it's Chris from the South China Morning Post. Good morning. And the first question is relating to the anti-epidemic measures. Has the government considered relaxing the requirement for vaccinated students to test less frequently? Is that something on the table that the government is considering? If so, when is there a timeline to do so? If not, what is the consideration of not doing that, because a lot of parents are worried that it's going to cost a lot of money to buy RAT? And the next question is, today is Press Freedom Day. I think Mr. John Lee said Hong Kong already had press freedom like people have their identity card. Do you agree with such a phrasing? And how do you convince the rest of the world that Hong Kong still has press freedom when there have been anecdotal accounts that former journalists have to work, for instance, as cashiers or even move overseas following the closure of Apple Daily, Stand News, and Citizen News? And what has the government been doing to promote press freedom? Thank you.
Well, first, on the question about the requirement that students going to school have to undertake a daily rapid antigen test. I said at the time of announcing this measure that this was not intended to be a permanent one, but it is not time yet to review the relevance of this measure, because it is still proven to be very reassuring for the schools and also for the parents. You will remember that since 19th of April, we have only allowed primary schools to resume their face-to-face learning, because the secondary school premises were used for the DSE examinations. From today onwards, this will be the first time that secondary students are also going back to school for their face-to-face learning. So likewise, they will have to do their daily rapid antigen test before entering the school premises. Equally, this is a very reassuring measure for the schools and also for the parents. But in due course, we will of course revisit this measure. But you mentioned about the parents' concern, especially in buying the RAT kits. We have pledged that we will provide enough rapid antigen test kits for the schools to distribute free of charge to students who are needy. And we have defined what is a needy student in a very broad manner. So all the students from families receiving Social Security and students who are receiving the full grant or the half grant of the student assistance will all be given free of charge the RAT kits. And on top of that, I understand many school sponsoring bodies and other charity groups are also sending a lot of RAT kits to schools. I went to one of these schools last week, and I met a few parents, and they all felt that this was a very good move because now they could be assured that they were not infected and their kids could go to school safely. So we will continue this practice for a while and then come back to you on when it is a time to lift this requirement. Now, Hong Kong's press freedom, like other individual rights and freedoms, are enshrined in the Basic Law. And in the 25 years since reunification, press freedom has been guaranteed in the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region. Our press scene, our media organizations are as vibrant as ever. If you look at the number of such institutions registered with the Information Services Department for gaining entry to press conferences like this and also to receive news from the Hong Kong SAR government, the number has not dropped. If you look at the presence of international and regional media, their presence has not subsided at all. So this is by itself a very good indication of the vibrancy of press freedom in Hong Kong. But as I said on many occasions, particularly with the enactment of the National Security Law, journalists, media organizations are not above the law. They also have to comply with the laws of Hong Kong, including the National Security Law. And if they have breached the law, then of course, the law enforcement bodies will have to take the necessary action. Thank you.
好，跟住下一位記者提問。
Next question. The lady on my left. Good morning, Mrs. Lam. I'm from Now TV. Please speak up. Sorry, I'm from Now TV. Mr. John Lee, the chief executive candidate, mentioned that he would like to complete the restructuring of the government before the change of government. That would be beneficial for the next term of the government. So do you think we can achieve that before the end of your term? That is the abolition of the MPF offsetting mechanism. You said you want to implement it before the 30th of June. However, there are many electrical members voicing their concerns over the law. So do you think it is achievable?
Now, our position is very clear when it comes to the first question. In my policy address last year, I took the initiative in the chapter on governance that there should be reorganization of the government. And then in January, I gave an account of the proposal to the LegCo. So instead of 13, there should be 15 bureaus. And I said that with the after the election of the sixth term of the CE, with the agreement of the CE elect, then this term of government and this term of CE will help to secure funding and approval from LegCo. Otherwise, on the 1st of July, when they take the oath to office, it would be difficult to have the full team, and then they cannot have a director or a secretary for tourism, culture. So as I said, after the election of the CE is completed, then we're going to submit all the relevant details, including the financial implications, the proposal and structure to this CE elect. In fact, the CE elect's office has just been set up, and with his agreement, we're going to help to implement the proposal. Hopefully, we can secure the approval of LegCo before the 30th of June. Now, that includes two parts. First, we need the approval of the Finance Committee. LegCo has to approve the additional establishment of the two bureaus, and we also need to fulfill the establishment requirement of these bureaus. And so we need the approval of ESC and also the Finance Committee, and then we have to pass a government motion to reallocate the roles and functions of the new secretaries. So we have a very tight timetable to work on. Now, we have 90 legislators because the Patriots are ruling Hong Kong, and I'm quite confident that the task can be completed. But am I just as confident that the bill to abolish the offsetting mechanism in the MPF? Now, that really depends on the Legislative Council, because the government has already submitted the bill to the council, and government officials have attended bills committee meetings a number of times to answer questions. Now, there has been over 10 years of debate on the abolition of the offsetting arrangements in the community. There have been numerous rounds of discussion in the council. We've only presented the bill to the council with widespread support in the community. Now, these call for moratorium has only happened in the past few days because we have had extensive discussions, and the government is going to commit heavily financially to help SMEs to help to adapt to the new environment after the abolition. We still have 2 months to go before the 30th of June. So if LegCo is willing to do this service to our labor sector, to the community, I'm sure it can be done, because even the bill to improve our electoral system, which is way more complicated than this bill, only took 44 days to be scrutinized and passed. So I have seen how efficient the government or the LegCo can be. So I appeal to different sectors and parties of the Legislative Council, and please have the best interests of the community and the labor sector in mind, and help to pass the bill to abolish the offsetting arrangement. Last question, please. Mrs. Lam, good morning. I am from Cable TV. I'd like to ask about the relaxation of social distancing measures. A few measures will be relaxed 2 weeks ahead of your schedule. Are you worried that this would lead to a surge of cases? Now, for the second stage of relaxation, some measures will be implemented on the 5th of May, some on the 19th of May. What is the basis for this different timetable? What are the justifications? It's reported in some media that the judiciary will have an annual review committee to enhance the performance and of some judges is for management purpose. Do you think that is appropriate? The UK did study this possibility, but came to the conclusion that it would undermine judicial independence. Do you think this new arrangement will undermine judicial independence? Will judgments by courts be influenced? Do you think it is appropriate to introduce such a system to appraise the performance of judges? Well, for the first question, I first said that on the 19th of May, we will follow the timetable and roadmap announced on the 21st of March, that we will implement the second stage of relaxation of social distancing measures. And then I said that after assessment, we believe 3 measures can be relaxed 2 weeks earlier, because the drop in the number of cases has been faster than our expectation, because some experts said that it will have to wait until April, May before we can have a 3-digit figure. But then we have seen the drop very quickly, and then over 300,000 students have resumed face-to-face classes, and they are required to do RAT every day. We only got sporadic positive cases. So that is the overarching consideration. And then I also talked about the strong aspirations from the community for reopening of swimming pools and beaches. Now, the weather has been cooler in the past 2 days, but you may recall that around the end of April, we have had the hottest April for a long time. The temperature was over 30 degrees Celsius. So the weather was so fine, and if we do not allow people to swim, that is very hard to justify. And the second thing is about wearing of masks. I think there is already a consensus when it comes to jogging, playing ball games, and sports activities that do not have any people person-to-person contact. Then it's difficult to keep your mask on, and then sometimes it's not so good to one's health. And as for the catering businesses, now the Mother's Day is around the corner, and then on that weekend we've also gone holiday for the Buddha's birthday. So now we hope that by relaxing the number of patrons allowed in the table, 3 generations, the grandmother and mother, and also the third generation, can share a table together. Now I am the head of the Hong Kong SAL. I have some responsibility to the judiciary, of course, but I hold on to the principle that we have a independent judiciary, and then they can operate with a high degree of autonomy. So I have not had any discussion with the Chief Justice on this matter. In fact, I only learned about this from the media. So I have to say that the independence of the judiciary will not be affected by administrative work, because when every judge, when appointed, has to take an oath, and the oath is very clear. He must exercise his duty without fear or favor and discharge his duties. And since the handover, one of the strengths of Hong Kong is an independent judiciary, and we have an independent adjudication power on matters in Hong Kong. So I don't think that this arrangement will affect our independent judicial independence, which is very much cherished in Hong Kong. That ends the press.